LinkedIn is that one social media app that we're kind of obliged to get once we start uni, but the truth is, not many uni students have actually heard of LinkedIn. And that goes for myself, because when I first set up my LinkedIn account back at uni, I thought it was nothing more than just an online CV. But it turns out it's actually way more than that, and it's actually like a doorway to limitless opportunities. And this is why I truly believe that LinkedIn is the future for young people finding opportunities, and the traditional way of CVs and cover letters and application forms is slowly gonna be obsolete, because LinkedIn is the way that young people reach out to people and find opportunities for themselves. Here are 5 benefits of using LinkedIn for young people from my fellow Gen Zers from around the world. Let's go.
How would they connect, say on LinkedIn? How would they connect with a more senior person and sell themselves in a way where the senior person would want to connect?
I think in that case it's important to be authentic. Don't try to state how successful you are to a senior person. They know if you're 21 you can't have done that much. You can be transparent about what you're doing, what you're aiming for, but be also as transparent about the areas that you're not an expert in, that you want to learn from them. So if you're authentic and if you're humble to say, hey, I really love what you're doing, I admire your work that you did at this company, can you give me some thoughts on my project, on my idea? I would love to learn from you, and I have some questions in this area or industry or field. Then this is way more helpful and way more likely to happen than if you would say, hey, I'm definitely the best in the field already, I just want to make sure that you're agreeing with me. So stay humble, stay authentic, and ask them for concrete advice. So the more the more individual the message and the interest, the better.
I 100% recommend LinkedIn. I think as someone just before lockdown, I struggled a lot with just talking to people in general. So going out there and to networking events in person, I would definitely not be able to do that. So I think if you're shy and you want to get to know a bit more people in the industry, then definitely go on LinkedIn. But I wouldn't say just use LinkedIn to reach out to people a few steps ahead of you and people who are doing big things. Reach out to people similar age, like students, because you never know. Literally my best friend, I met them all through LinkedIn. I've never seen them before. I mean, we're going to meet up in 24, and then I have another friend who I met in the US. But they're the best people I've ever known in my life, and it's through LinkedIn. But I think it's because on LinkedIn, I guess when you're young, you put more of your interests, and so you will naturally attract like-minded people. As opposed to Instagram, it's more I don't know. I don't like Instagram, so it's just life, food. But LinkedIn, make it clear about your interests, like interest in economics or law or something. And I make it clear that I am interested in economics, but I'm also all about personal development. And if you read my bio, then it's very clear that I tell people that if you love personal development, entrepreneurship, growth mindset, then definitely reach out to me. I'd love to call. That's how I met all my amazing friends. So.
I opened up this app, LinkedIn. I never really used it before. It was more of a sort of digital CV for me. And I saw, quite understandably, a lot of people posting happy to receive this and delighted to have accepted this and so on during that sort of time of year when that was sort of correlating. And I just remember I being in the same position of, say, 6 to 12 months ago, reading all those posts and thinking that was really indicative of the entire job market and thinking that you were the only one who didn't get something and so on. So just sort of made a short post on that basis and gave a few points and offered to speak to anyone who wanted some advice. And it went crazy. It went viral. It was real amazing to see the sort of the thirst for people to learn from others and to kind of really share their knowledge in that way. And then it sort of evolved over time with everything I've been doing, starting with speaking to people on a sort of one-to-one basis, and then writing my blog, developing more long-form content, and then obviously evolving through the podcast and everything else I've been doing to date. So it's been a real pleasure, because it's been a real two-way experience. I've been able to try and help save people making the same mistakes that I made, and there are a lot of them throughout the whole process. And admittedly, it's a lot different to everything else that students and others might have been aware from before. And at the same time, I've had the ability to speak to people from all over the world, had the ability to engage with students, with partners, with more senior lawyers in a really engaging way, and to really get a feel for what they're all about, and the kind of passions they have, and the sort of thinking about the ways that we can sort of disseminate information to this specific generation in a way which is going to be really accessible, and kind of meeting them where they are, really.
LinkedIn is a really powerful tool, and I'm sure many of us who have heard of it. LinkedIn is really very useful, not just in getting to know new people, but also in stalking people. So here are a few qualities that I look out for. So firstly, I also look out at the industry and the field that they're working in. So as I mentioned previously, in the previous question you asked me, right? Personally, I was quite interested in project management, entrepreneurship, as well as consulting. So I definitely looked out for mentors in these few key areas so that I can ask relevant questions. So that's the first thing to look out for. Yeah, and then secondly, I think it's really about their lifestyle and their personality. So for instance, if I happen to see that the mentor has a similar hobby with me, I know that that's something that I can start off with. It's a conversation starter. And also looking at how often they post on social media also, that gives me an idea into what kind of person they are. So for instance, if a person likes to post a lot of intellectual discussions, then I know that that's something that she or he is very keen on. If a person doesn't post at all, I know that maybe he or she has other priorities in his or her life. Yeah, and based on things like that, I can kind of understand a bit more. So for instance, if I want to learn how to build my social media personal branding, right, it helps to pick a mentor who does a lot of personal branding on her social media and posts regularly. Yeah, but if I'm looking for something else, then maybe that's not something very important to me.
I noticed from your profile that you've generated over 100 million views from your content. How did you go about generating that amount of views, and what did it do for your career, your journey so far?
Yeah, so I think number one is, for me, in terms of the formula, there's no secret formula for LinkedIn. It's pretty straightforward, in my opinion. Is number one, consistency. So I posted content, whether it was interviewing people, whether it was sharing a weekly recap, building True Fan out, whether it was sharing a photo of me speaking at an event and giving like the 2 or 3 big takeaways in the caption. I just constantly put out content on a daily basis, especially for the first year or two of being on LinkedIn and trying to build up my community. The second aspect past consistency was the type of content I was sharing. It was super relatable initially to younger students, because when I was a student, I was feeling a lot of things that other college students were feeling, right? Procrastination was a big issue, not knowing what I wanted to do, not having a passion or a goal in mind, going through and quite honestly, having terrible work-life balance, and not eating right and not working out properly. Like, these are things that I talk about on LinkedIn because I knew that every college student could probably relate to it and identify with it. And then now I talk a lot about issues that entrepreneurs would face, especially with COVID that came around, talking about how you should pivot your business model, how you should go about retaining key employees, staying lean, etc. So these are the types of things that I put out in the form of content that I wanted to share because I wanted to relate to my audience. I didn't want to just talk about how great my life was. I wanted to talk about challenges that I was going through that I know other people could relate to and could connect with me on. And then I think the third and final aspect that was part of this formula was community. Early on, when I started seeing people comment on my posts on LinkedIn, I started actually replying to them and saying, can we get on a 5-minute call? And I just remember in Toronto in my second year being in an apartment and taking these 5-minute calls with random people who had commented on my post. And the reason I did it is A, to obviously broaden my network, but B, so that the next time they saw my post, they would have this idea of who Swish was on a deeper level than just an avatar and a name, right? So that's really, I think, what helped me is my community that I built up of 35, 40, 45 people that really liked my content and knew me were the ones that constantly commented on my posts to make it go viral, to make it spread a lot quicker. Because again, from a formulaic perspective, from an algorithm perspective, LinkedIn works as like the first 30 minutes to an hour the more comments you get on your post, the more likely that post is going to go viral and be shared on several different feeds. So that's a lot of what I did on kind of the formula and like what I did to really have viral content. In terms of why I wanted to do that, I mean, I personally just wanted to have an outlet to speak about what I was going through as a student, and then as an entrepreneur. I wanted to share the lessons and tips and advice that I got and spread that on a broader level to my community. And that's honestly why even to date, I consistently post on LinkedIn. I keep sharing my story on it because it's just been a fantastic way for me to be able to find an outlet, and then also to be able to do things like speaking and writing a book. That all came from LinkedIn when people started to notice my content and what I was doing.